Every spring, same corner of my roof line, a little gray paper cone would show up right over the porch steps. I sprayed it, knocked it down with a broom. One year, I even paid a man $85 to spray it for me, and he was kind enough to come back in June and charge me again. Then one summer, I remembered something an old farmhand showed me back when I was 17 and still had a full head of hair. A trick that costs about $1, takes 20 minutes a season, and has kept my roofline empty for 9 years running. Today I'm going to show you exactly how it works, where most folks get it wrong, and I'll be straight with you about what it will not do, because most of the Wasp advice floating around skips that part. And stay with me to the end, because I'm also going to tell you about the one Wasp mistake that puts people in the emergency room, and it's probably not the one you're thinking of. I am Earl Dawson. Let me take you back a ways first, because this trick has a face attached to it. The summer I was 17, I hayed for the Hendricks family 2 farms over. They had a machine shed with a wide overhang, and every August that overhang looked like a Wasp apartment complex. 4 nests, 5 nests, big gray combs hanging up in the shade, and you learned real quick to fetch the grease gun with a plan. But the porch on the main house, where Mrs. Hendricks shelled peas every single evening, never had one. Not one nest all summer, year after year. I figured it was the paint, or luck. Then one cool April morning, I came in early and found Hollis, the old farmhand who'd been there since before the tractor had a cab, standing on a kitchen chair, rubbing something along the underside of the porch eaves, working it into the corners like he was polishing a car he couldn't afford. I got closer and saw it was a plain white bar of soap. I laughed at him. I was 17. Laughing came easy. Hollis didn't even look down. He said, "Son, I don't fight wasps. I just make the house hard to rent." That August, the machine shed had 5 nests, and the porch had none. And Mrs. Hendricks shelled her peas in peace while the rest of us ducked and weaved out by the equipment. Hollis explained it to me exactly once, the way old men explain things, short, and only if you're standing there anyway. A wasp queen is a builder, and a builder walks away from a bad foundation. I forgot about it for 30 years, bought my sprays, paid my $85, and then one spring, it came back to me while I was standing in the garage holding a bar of laundry soap for a completely different reason. Been doing it Hollis's way ever since. If you're new around here, this channel is one cheap yard fix a week from a man who has made every mistake first. So hit subscribe and you won't miss the next one. Now before I hand you the bar of soap, you need to understand why your roofline keeps getting picked in the first place. Because the whole trick hangs on it. Every nest you've ever knocked down started with one single wasp. In early spring, a queen wakes up from wherever she spent the winter, under bark, in a wood pile, behind your shutters, and she goes shopping for a building site. She's alone. No workers, no guards, no backup, just one insect flying slow along the edges of buildings, checking spots the way you check apartments. And she has a wish list. She wants a roof because her nest is paper, chewed wood fiber and spit, and paper melts in the rain. Your overhang solves that. She wants morning sun because warmth grows her brood faster, which is why the south and east sides of your house get hit hardest. She wants a rough surface because the whole comb hangs off one little stalk about the thickness of a pencil lead, and that stalk needs to grip. Bare wood, weathered paint, the texture up under your fascia, all of it grips beautifully. And she wants quiet, high, dry, out of reach of raccoons and brooms, at least until August, when you're standing under it with a plate of burgers. Your roofline checks every box on that list, It is the best real estate in the county, and she doesn't pay rent, doesn't mow, and raises a couple hundred kids with attitudes. That number matters. In April, it's her alone on a nest the size of a golf ball. By late July, that same nest can hold anywhere from a few dozen to a couple hundred workers, every one of them on defense. So the entire game, the whole thing, is talking her out of the deal in April, so you never have to meet the family in August. Which brings us to the bar of soap. Go buy the plainest, cheapest, unscented white bar soap on the shelf. The old-fashioned laundry bar your grandmother kept by the wash basin is about perfect. Skip anything that says moisturizing, because the added oils soften the film and it won't hold. You'll spend under $2, and one bar will do an average house twice over, with some left for stuck zippers. Pick a dry day in early spring, before things green up, before you've seen the first wasp cruising. Take that dry bar and rub a thin film along the underside of your eaves and the top foot or so of wall up under the overhang. Work it into the corners where two roof lines meet, around the porch light fixtures, along the porch ceiling edges, under the cap of the deck railing, and along the top edge behind the shutters. Corners get extra attention. A wasp queen loves a corner the way a cat loves a box. You are not frosting a cake here. A thin, dry haze is plenty. If you can see white buildup from the ground, you've used 3 times what the job needs, and the thick stuff just crumbles and washes off anyway. The film does 2 things to her. First, it keeps that anchor stalk from gluing down tight. She'll try to set it, the paper won't bond right, and a builder does not stack 200 children on a footing that wiggles. Second, she plain doesn't like standing on it. Wasps taste with their feet, and soap tastes wrong all the way down. So she circles, she tests, she thinks it over for about 4 seconds, and then she goes and checks the next house down the road. Sorry, Dale, for the high spots, and every house has them, do not spend your morning walking a ladder around the property. Mix a few tablespoons of plain dish soap into a bucket of warm water. Dip a paint roller on an extension pole and roll the underside of the eaves from the ground with both boots planted. Same film, no climbing. The peaks over the garage, the second-story overhang, the spot above the bay window. All of it gets done in 15 minutes, and the worst injury available is a wet sleeve. Now the honest part, because I promised it. Do it once in early spring and once around midsummer, and touch it up after a long stretch of hard rain if your wood is bare. Painted wood holds the film a good while. Slick vinyl sheds it faster, so if your soffits are vinyl, lean on the roller method and repeat it an extra time or 2 through the season. And understand what this trick is. It discourages a queen who is shopping. It will not evict a nest that's already built. It kills nothing, and it does absolutely nothing about yellow jackets living in the ground by your mailbox, which are a different animal and a different video. Compare that to the spray can, though. The can kills the wasps in front of you today, and next April, a brand new queen flies the same route, finds the same lovely dry overhang, and builds in the same corner, because the real estate never changed. That's why the truck comes back every year. The service works exactly as designed. It's just designed to be needed again. Soap changes the property listing itself. That's the difference, and that's the hole Secret Hollis was standing on that kitchen chair protecting. But the bar of soap is only layer 1, and if you've been around this channel, you know I never trust one layer of anything. So layer 2 is what I call the coffee patrol. Once a week through April and May, take your morning coffee and walk the house one time, looking up along every overhang. 2 minutes, maybe 3 if the coffee's good. What you're hunting for is a starter nest, and a starter nest is easy to miss because it doesn't look like trouble yet. Gray stalk, a small cluster of open cells, the whole thing about the size of a golf ball, like a tiny upside-down umbrella somebody left in the rafters. One wasp on it or near it. That single wasp is the queen, the founder, the architect, and the entire payroll. Early morning, while it's still cool, she'll be slow or out gathering. Take a paint scraper on a pole, one firm push, knock the nest down, step on it, and go finish your coffee. That's it. That's the whole fight. When you fight it in April, she may test a spot a few feet over, and the soap film is the reason she mostly gives up and leaves the property instead. If one queen gets stubborn, a spray bottle of soapy water, a couple good squirts, drops her fast. The soap clogs the little breathing holes along her sides, and it costs you about a nickel. I do want to flag something before anybody grabs a scraper, and I'll say it fully in the questions at the end. If bee or wasp stings have ever done anything to you beyond hurting, this patrol layer is not for you. Hold that thought. Layer 3 is where you stop supplying the operation, because your yard might be running a lumber yard and a diner without your knowledge. Paper wasps make their paper by rasping fibers off gray, weathered, unsealed wood. Stand near an old fence on a quiet summer day, and you can actually hear it, a faint little zipper sound, a wasp shaving off building material, your bare fence rails, that graying deck, the pallet pile behind the shed, the old swing set nobody swings on. All of it is free lumber. A cheap coat of sealant or paint on the worst of it closes the store, and your fence lasts longer as a bonus. Then there's water. Gutters holding an inch of last fall's leaves and rainwater are a wasp, drinking fountain bolted to the exact roof line you're trying to protect. Clean them and food. Trash lids that don't seal, fruit rotting under the apple tree, the sticky drip under the hummingbird feeder, dog food sitting out all afternoon. Every one of those you fix makes your place a little less interesting, and the neighbor's place a little more. I say that with love, Dale. Do what you can. You don't need a perfect yard. You need a yard that ranks second. And right about here, do me a favor. I would bet money that wasps build in the same corner of your place every single year, and I want to know where. Over the door, the shed, the grill, the mailbox. Drop it in the comments, because next time I cover wasps, I want to work off real houses and yours counts. Now, the mistakes. I've watched folks try the soap trick, swear it doesn't work, and every time, one of 5 things went wrong. The first mistake is timing. Somebody hears about this in July, soaps the whole house in an afternoon, and stands there confused when the August nest doesn't pack up and move. The queen shop in early spring. Soap applied in July is a pleasant smell on a nest that already has a mortgage. Mark your calendar for the first mild stretch of spring, and the trick works. Miss the window, and you're back to layer 2 tools and patience. The second mistake is caking it on. A thick white smear looks like commitment, but it crumbles, streaks in the rain, and does no more than the thin film would have. Light haze worked into the surface. If your husband can see it from the driveway, thin it out. The third mistake is doing the easy flat runs and skipping the fiddly spots. The middle of the eave is the easy rub, so that's what gets soaked. And then the queen builds in the corner junction behind the porch light, or right where the downspout meets the fascia, because those got skipped and those are exactly what she wanted. The awkward spots are the job. The flat runs are the warm-up. The fourth mistake is the emergency room one I promised you, and it isn't a ladder fall. It's the soffit hole. Some folks find wasps trafficking in and out of a gap in the soffit or a crack near the roofline, and they do the thing that feels logical. They spray a can into the hole, or worse, they caulk it shut. Please hear me. Wasps sealed inside a wall or soffit void do not shrug and die. They search for another exit, and the softest way out of that void is through your ceiling drywall into the house. People have opened a hallway door and met the whole colony indoors. A hole with traffic is a completely different problem than a nest hanging in the open. That one gets a professional, or at the very least a real plan, and never, ever a caulk gun at 2 in the afternoon. The fifth mistake is playing hero with a mature nest. Big nest, hot day, top rung of the ladder, one swing of the broom. Wasps defend hardest in warm midday hours, and a startled colony 10 feet up is how a yard chore becomes a fall, plus a dozen stings. If a nest has gotten past softball size, especially near a doorway, that's the one thing all season I pay for. I pinch pennies on everything else in this yard specifically, so that phone call doesn't sting worse than the wasps. All right, 5 questions I know are coming, because you folks send them every time. First question, does the soap actually kill them? No, and I want to be plain about that. The dry bar prevents. The soapy water spray in a bottle kills on contact, and those are 2 different tools for 2 different moments. And honestly, I don't want a dead yard. Paper wasps spend all summer hauling off caterpillars, flies, and garden pests by the hundreds. My goal is that they do all that fine work based out of the tree line instead of over my front door. Prevention over war, every time. Second question, does the kind of soap matter? Some. Plain, cheap, unscented, hard white bar. The old laundry bars are ideal because they're mostly pure soap and they rub on dry and even. The fancy soft bars with oils and lotions in them leave a greasy layer that slides off in the first rain. If it smells like a spa, leave it at the store. Third question, what about those fake paper nests they sell? The decoys. I'll give you my honest read. Paper wasp queens can be territorial, and some folks swear a decoy under the eave keeps them off. Other folks, me included, one embarrassing spring, have watched a queen start construction 3 feet from the decoy like it was a model home. So I call the decoy a maybe, and I don't build my plan on maybes. If you already own one, hang it. It costs you nothing, and it does nothing at all for mud daubers or yellow jackets either way. Fourth question, what if there's already a nest up there right now? Size it and place it. Golf ball in spring with 1 wasp, that's the coffee patrol. A pole scraper and 30 seconds on a cool morning. Anything bigger than a softball, anything near a doorway you use, anything with steady traffic, or anything disappearing into a crack rather than hanging in the open, stop and get help. And one more thing while we're here. Mud dauber nests, the little mud tubes, almost never deserve a panic. Those wasps hardly ever sting anybody. Scrape the tube off in fall and go on with your life. Fifth question, and this is the one I need everybody to hear. What if you're allergic? Then none of the hands-on parts of this video are for you. Not the patrol, not the scraping, not the spraying, none of it. If a sting has ever swelled you well past the sting site, made your throat feel tight, or put you in a clinic, then wasps on your property are a conversation with your doctor and a job for a professional, full stop. The only piece I keep is the soap itself. Applied in late winter or very early spring when nothing is flying, or better yet, handed to somebody in the family who isn't allergic. No trick on this channel is worth a ride in an ambulance, so the plan is short enough to fit on a scrap of paper, and I'll put the full checklist in the description so you can pull it up in the yard. Keep a cheap white bar of soap in the garage by the door. On the first dry, mild morning of spring, spend 20 minutes rubbing a thin film along the eaves, the corners, the porch ceiling, and around the lights, and roll the high spots with soapy water on a paint roller pole. Through April and May, take the 2-minute coffee walk once a week and scrape down any golf ball you find. Somewhere in there, seal the grayest wood, clean the gutters, and tighten the trash lids. Touch the soap up midsummer and after hard rains. That's $1, a bar of soap, and maybe an hour spread across a whole season against $85 a visit and a roofline that fills right back up. Hollis has been gone a long time now, but every April when I'm out there working that bar into the corners, I figure he'd approve, and he'd still tell me I'm using too much. If a wasp has ever set up over your door, your grill, or your shed, tell me in the comments where it was. And if this saved you a pest control bill, subscribe, because I put out one cheap yard fix like this every week, and the next one's already brewing. This is Earl, and I'll see you out in the yard.